my snow angels, welcome back to my channel. I have moved, so I'm currently at my new place. I'm not at my desk yet because it's terrible lighting over there, so we're just gonna do this on the floor. So today I am going to continue the series that I have on my channel where I do a deep dive on different music artists in order to understand them and to learn from them. Today I'm going to be focusing on one of the greatest singers of all time, Whitney Houston. Growing up, I knew a little bit about Whitney because my mom loved her music. I remember her showing me Greatest Love of All and how much it moved me. When Whitney passed away, I was a senior in high school and my mom was naturally very upset about the passing. She told me about Whitney's marriage to Bobby Brown and about the drug abuse. She blamed the drug abuse on Bobby, saying that it was Bobby who destroyed her. So I remember being really upset that day and crying a lot. Yeah, it was rough. So I cannot imagine how that day it was for the people who were close to her. Years later, I listened to the song again with my mom. She always loved the beginning. I believe the children are future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Since her biggest achievement in life was being a mother. At that time, I was in college and I was beginning to learn about the importance of learning to love myself. I was very big on it, very passionate about it, and it is a journey that I'm continuing to go on. The song moved me again because of this messaging of learning to love yourself and about the strength that you have. And then I was sad again because it seemed like Whitney did not know how to love herself. Before doing research for this video, I did continue to hold the opinion that my mom had, that Bobby was at fault for what happened with Whitney. And while in many ways that is true, he did contribute a lot to what happened with her, and he did certainly made it worse. Upon doing research, I realized that what had happened to her was much deeper and darker than her turbulent and abusive relationship with her ex-husband. And that is not to downplay all the abuse and everything that he did to her. I'm just saying it is not the only contributing factor. It's much more complicated than that. So in this video, I want to really tell the whole story as far as I know it, as someone who has done research and enjoys her music. And I was in no way involved in her life, never knew her personally. So I'm just gonna tell the story as far as I know it and really focus on who she was as a person and not just on her demons. Yes, I will be talking about it because that is a huge part of her life and what happened, but it doesn't define who she was as a person. Most of the information I got for this video was from the 2018 documentary called Whitney, which is very good and I definitely recommend it. But I also read a few articles, which I will link in the description. And here I really need to issue a content warning. There will be discussion of SA, people being R-worded, substance abuse, physical abuse, self-hurting, I don't know how to censor it, and cheating. When I come to those moments, I will try my best to remember to warn you, and I will put timestamps in the video. And that way, if it's too triggering, you can skip over it. So without further ado, let's get into it. Whitney Houston was born on August 9th, 1963 in Newark, New Jersey. Her family and the people close to her called her Nippy. Her father, John Houston, was the head of central planning and zoning during the Gibson administration in the 1970s. Gibson was the first African-American mayor of Newark. It was, however, a corrupt administration. Her mother, Sissy Houston, was a singer who mainly did background vocals for Aretha Franklin. Her uncles were also singers, and her cousins were famous singers Dionne Warwick and Dee Dee Warwick. During the holidays, instead of talking, they would go to the piano and sing together. So she definitely had the genetics and the background to have that natural talent. She had 2 brothers named Michael and Gary. Her and Michael were especially close, like best friends. They especially had to stick together because Sissy was away a lot in order to perform. So the 3 kids stayed with other people most of the time. Sissy made the family go to church, and Whitney loved it. Church was a very big thing in her family and in her life, and did have a big influence. She knew since she was 13 that she wanted to be a singer. So she sang in the church choir, which was directed by Sissy. So she did sing a lot of gospel music, and gospel music was a huge influence for her overall sound. They grew up in a black neighborhood, but she was bullied because Sissy dressed her nicely like a white girl. She was a nice and quiet kid, however, she did not have very many friends. They eventually moved to East Orange to try to become more middle class. Sissy began to teach Whitney everything she knew about singing. The biggest thing was to sing from your heart, mind, and guts, which I believe to be an excellent way to teach the voice and to teach music. Because to be a good singer, not only do you need to have excellent technique, but you need to emote. You really need to sing from the heart and really bring those emotions to life, really get people to feel it. And Whitney did this flawlessly. Whitney developed a 3-octave range, which, if you don't know, an octave is 8 notes. So this is nothing to scoff at. That's a very big range. Sissy was a disciplinarian with Whitney because she knew her potential. So she was especially hard on her and a big perfectionist. So this led to a lot of fights between mother and daughter. And as Whitney continued to grow up, the bullying got so bad that her parents sent her to Mount St. Dominic Academy, which was a private Catholic school for girls. They also wanted her to be educated and sophisticated. And, there was more pressure to be this way, considering that they were African American and facing a lot of racism. She really loved her parents, so naturally, when they decided to get divorced, it was very hard for her. So what had happened was John had tapped the phone and caught Sissy having an affair with the minister of their church. So since the church was her second family, this broke Whitney's heart. When she was 15, Sissy took her with her to perform background vocals. Around that time, a photographer discovered her and she became a teen model. In fact, she was the first black woman to be on the cover of 17 magazine. However, she didn't like being a model because she knew that she needed to be a singer. When she was almost 17, she met her best friend, Robin Crawford. They were both summer counselors in East Orange. About 5 years after Whitney's death, Robin wrote a book called A Song for You, My Life with Whitney Houston. And she said in their book that the moment she first saw Whitney, she said, "I'm going to look out for you." And she did for a while. I'm going to talk more about Robin later because she's very important. She continued to perform with her mother. Her parents knew that Whitney would make it as a singer, but they didn't want to rush her because they were preparing her to become a legacy instead of a trend. There was a teen star on the rise, which made Whitney angry because she felt like she could do better. and that her parents were holding her back. I actually related to this a lot because as a singer-songwriter who hasn't been able to gain enough of an audience to make it a career yet, I have been frustrated with seeing people over 10 years younger than me making it as singers because of TikTok. Like, they're already famous, and so they decided, oh, I might as well make a career. And yeah, I have had to remind myself over and over again that what I'm trying to build is a foundation instead of a viral moment. And during the past few years, I've been really feeling like I am lacking and I need to improve a lot more. So seeing others succeed upsets me a little less, but also I have matured a bit and have learned that it's not a competition and that the world always welcomes creative people. Yes, it's hard to get traction, but just stick to it. Yeah, I believe my time will come. Just need to keep working hard. But just because other people may have made it sooner does not mean that I'm in any way less talented or less deserving. It just means it hasn't happened yet. So anyway, I am only putting in that anecdote because it was a way I could relate to her. And hopefully it's helpful to, if any of you are watching who are singers and songwriters, don't give up and don't compare yourself. Build a legacy instead of a viral moment. Okay, moving on. So Sissy had a trick up her sleeve. Before a performance at an R&B club called Mikkel's, Sissy pretended to not have a voice and had Whitney perform in her stead. She was 17 at the time and she nailed it. It was after the performance that she realized that Sissy tricked her. After that, they started going to labels to try to get her signed. At the time, it was mainly bands, not solo artists, who were getting signed, so it was harder to get Whitney in the door. However, she slowly started getting offers. The two companies that were offering the best deals were Elektra and Arista. Every night, they would come to a show and then offer bigger deals the next day. She signed with Arista, which was led by Clive Davis at the time. She was 19 years old when she signed. In 1983, on the Merv Griffin show, she made her TV debut, where she sang Home from the musical The Wiz. 2 years later, in 1985, she released her debut album, Whitney Houston. She had 3 #1 singles with Greatest Love of All, Saving All My Love for You, and How Will I Know. How Will I Know is a very cute and catchy song. I enjoy it. The next year, she won a Grammy for Saving My Love for You, which was presented by her cousin, Dionne Warwick. She released her sophomore album, which was called Whitney, in 1987, which went platinum many times. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard charts, making her the first woman in history to have an album debut at #1. She also had 4 #1 singles for that album and 1 Grammy for I Wanna Dance with Somebody. After that, she had a very successful world tour. This was the most successful debut in history. However, she continued to be simple when she was at home. On stage, she was Whitney Houston, but off stage, she was nippy. Now, I hear that this is a thing with a lot of singers, that they have a persona. There's the person they are on stage and then the person they are off stage. And I believe this can be both healthy and potentially toxic, because it's healthy because it is kind of like a separation of work and life. When you're on stage and you're performing and you have millions of fans, you do need to have that stage persona, and then you do need to have that balance. However, it can be a problem because it can lead to identity issues, which was the case here, and I will get to that. She had a lot of boyfriends at this time, which was partly to hide her close bond with Robin. So, in Robin's book, she confessed that they had a secret relationship for 2 years. In fact, when Whitney was 18, and she was mad at her mother for having an affair. She moved in with Robin. And then the documentary, before they mentioned anything about this relationship and they just showed a picture of Whitney and Robin, I caught some vibes. As a queer woman myself, I definitely caught some vibe. I was like, there was something going on. So it was interesting when it was confirmed because I had no idea. I had no idea before watching the documentary that her and Robin had a relationship. I had no idea that Whitney was bisexual. Anyway, so Robin said this about our relationship. We never talked about labels, like lesbian or gay. We just lived our lives and hoped it would go on that way forever. Whitney ended the physical part of the relationship after signing with Arista in 1983. She gave Robin a Bible as a symbol that they couldn't outwardly pursue their romantic relationship, because if people found out, it would be used against them. She was mainly scared of judgment from her family, though, because they did not like Robin and they were also very Christian. So actually, I found out that Bobby Brown told Us Weekly in 2016 that Whitney was bi and was involved in a hidden relationship with Robin for years. He also said, I really feel that if Robin was accepted into Whitney's life, Whitney would still be alive today. She didn't have close friends with her anymore. So her family pretended to be the perfect family, which, from experience, if something like that appears to be perfect, there's usually some pretty dark secrets that are well hidden. So keep that in mind. So yeah, they looked so perfect that for years, the public didn't know that her parents were divorced because they pretended to be close for the sake of public perception. So when stories began to come out about Whitney and Robin, she had to deny it. Robin was an assistant to Whitney at the time, and she was able to get through to Whitney when no one else could. This was viewed as a threat for John Houston because he was an opportunist. He wanted all the power, and he hated that Robin had that power over Whitney. In fact, he tried to pay someone to break Robin's legs. I wish I was kidding. Yeah, it's horrible. He eventually took over as manager, and suddenly everyone in the family except Sissy was on the payroll. Gary sang backup for her. Michael was her tour manager. And it was good that they were there because they did take care of her. However, they were all on drugs. And actually, on Whitney's 16th birthday, Michael gave her weed and cocaine for the first time. So she already had a history of doing these substances. And this was during the 80s when it was very normalized and very openly used. So Michael had no idea that this would eventually lead to her death. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have done drugs with her. During this time, she got a lot of shit from the black community for making pop music because it sounded too white. And she was booed at the Soul Train Awards. And naturally, this negativity got to her. Which, granted, I am white. So I am like a little hesitant to talk about this because I don't know if I have any place to talk about this. And, you know, if I say anything wrong, please educate me in the comments. I'm always welcome to be more educated about this since I understand I am white and I can never, ever begin to understand how it is for the black community and especially for black women. But I don't understand. I don't understand why she got hate for making pop music as a black woman. I am of the belief that music is for everyone and that you should be able to make the kind of music you want to make no matter what you look like. Unless it's obviously cultural appropriation, then, you know, stay the hell away from that. So I don't understand why she got hate for doing that. And in fact, I believe that today there are more and more black artists that are doing pop music and not just rap and R&B. And I think that's wonderful. Like there's so many black artists that I love. There is obviously still a lot of racism in the industry over genres. And like the Grammys especially, and I hate the Grammys. The Grammys don't normally nominate black artists in the main categories and usually delegate them to R&B and urban and rap, I believe. And that obviously needs to change. So I hope there will be change, but I also understand that I'm white and it's not exactly my fight, but when I do see injustice, I do want to talk about it. So after this, she met Bobby Brown, who was very black and very straight. Parents didn't like her dating him very much because he was very unrefined. Well, she was sophisticated. However, she was in love with him because he was fun to be around and he made her laugh. The beginning of their relationship was pretty passionate and loving, and she had no idea what would end up happening. They got married in 1992 and she got pregnant with Bobby Christina during their honeymoon. She thought that getting married and starting a family would make everything better. She also took Christy with her when she had to be away. So Chrissy wanted her attention a lot, but the road was not an easy place to raise a kid, and she had to grow up too fast. So that same year that she got married in 1992, she had her film debut called The Guardian with Kevin Costner. So this was monumental for her career and for the black community because finally there was representation. There was a black leading lady on screen. A role that was usually filled with white women. So this was huge. However, it was her rendition of Dolly Parton's I Will Always Love You that really, really just shot her into space. Like, she was everywhere. That song was everywhere. It was #1 for 14 weeks. She won 3 Grammys for Album of the Year, Best Female Pop Vocal Performance, and Record of the Year. It was playing in different countries. I think like everyone's probably heard it. Like most people have heard it. In fact, I didn't realize that it was originally a Dolly Parton song until yesterday when I was doing research. So huge, definitely. So Bobby, being an insecure and egotistical man, began to get really jealous of her and her career because she was the star and he was the star's husband. So Whitney obviously took notice of this, and she decided to bring herself down to lift him up. Which is incredibly sad. It's so sad that we as women are expected to do this. And I'm glad that there's more and more attention brought to that. It's just... So, she let him manage her, and she changed her production name to Brown House. But of course, this was not enough for him because he wanted to be the star on stage. So this is when he decided to hurt her on purpose. So he started getting on the tabloids for cheating. He went to jail for physically harming her. He had multiple sexual harassment lawsuits. It was messy. It was really messy. Of course, people, didn't want her to stay with them. They wanted her to leave him. But she stayed because she didn't want to be a divorcee like her mother. So instead, she used an escape. So at this point, her and Michael began to take substances every day. Bobby was a lightweight and couldn't keep up with them. So, yeah, not 100% Bobby's fault there. She started to come to rehearsals late. She was struggling with her voice. She was canceling shows. And she was becoming a different person. Now, I've heard that this happens a lot with people with addictions. So definitely a big warning sign there. So Sissy, at this point, arranged an intervention. After Whitney had agreed to do rehab, she called her dad, who said she didn't have to go. So This gave me flashbacks of when I was learning about Amy Winehouse. In fact, there's a lot of similarities between Amy and Whitney as far as their stories. I do have a video about Amy Winehouse that I recommend that you check out. It should be in the playlist for you to watch. Sissy didn't push rehab after that because she did not want Whitney to be mad at her again, like when Whitney was 18 and moved out. In fact, no one else really did anything because of the money, clout, and connections. If they were to get on her case about this and try to help her do something, like they feared that they would lose their jobs and wouldn't be able to hang out with celebrities. There were definitely a lot of people on her payroll that used her that really should have helped her. Yeah, definitely problems there. So in 1997, she played the fairy godmother in the Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella with Brandy. I'm mentioning this because it's a pretty popular Cinderella movie. It's not my favorite, but I do enjoy it as a Cinderella fan, and I do understand its importance for not just the Black community, but also Asian representation as well. The music is amazing, and the costumes are amazing, and like, I think everyone would want to have Whitney Houston as a fairy godmother. That's the dream. In 1998, she released her first non-OST album in years with My Love Is Your Love, which didn't sell as well as her previous albums. However, she still won a Grammy for it. It was also that year that she won an Academy Award for the song she sang with Mariah Carey called When You Believe from Prince of Egypt. Now, I'm not a religious person, but that song is very moving. Things continue to be bad with Bobby. In fact, Robin was going through a power struggle with him since he did not want her around, and she thought that he was a bad influence on Whitney and would destroy her, which she was partly right, I would say. Of course, I wasn't there, so I don't know the extent of it, but definitely he was a big contributing factor. But yeah, so they were butting heads so much, so she gave Whitney the ultimatum of me or him. And Whitney's response was, tell her that I accept her resignation. After that, they didn't speak for years. After Robin left, John finally had total control. In fact, he was stealing money from Whitney. And when she found out, she cut him off. I don't think people talk about Whitney's strength enough. She had a lot of it. She definitely had a lot of it. Like, yes, she struggled a lot, but she did have a will. She did have a backbone at times. She did have strength. So, like, I'm, like, so glad she did that because, Jesus Christ, like, her dad stealing money from her. Like, that's unforgivable, in my opinion. Like, she definitely needed to cut him off. So in the year 2001, she signed the biggest multi-album deal in history for $100 million. John felt like he was entitled to that money because he helped commission the deal. So he had the audacity to try to sue her for that money. The man who stole from her was trying to get that money that she got because of her hard work and her success. God. Of course, this betrayal hurt her a lot. So when he was dying, she was called to see him, but she didn't come. She also didn't go to the funeral, but she had a good explanation for that. She didn't want to be around the cameras. And quite frankly, I don't blame her. If I was her, I would not want to be around the cameras at my dad's funeral, you know. So she personally paid her respects the night before the funeral. These years were very hard for her, though she still had her smile that would make you feel warm. She was in terrible pain, and it was evident. She would shut herself in hotels for 10 days at a time. She was losing weight to an unhealthy degree. People were worried about her health. Which led to 4 days before 9/11, she did a concert for Michael Jackson, and she looked so bad that the cat was out of the bag. There were articles talking about her addiction. People were concerned. People found out. So her label made her do the infamous interview with Diane Sawyer in 2002. It was invasive. It was really horrible. The members of her team knew it, and that it would be so bad for her. And it was. She should have gotten help for her addictions instead of going on TV to talk about it. So it was bad. Then she was being parodied on shows like Family Guy and SNL. To which I say, fuck you. Making light of someone's pain and addiction and turning it into terrible comedy to profit off of is really deplorable. I said the same thing about comedians making bits about Amy's addiction in my Amy Winehouse video. If you're sinking that low to make fun of a real person's struggles, you're not funny. You're an asshole. It's just come up with better material. Don't do it at the expense of someone else. A real issue. A disease. Fuck you. Things got worse with the tabloids. So she would call Michael Jackson. They would sit together in silence because they truly understood each other. No one else did. No one else could. Also in that year, she released her album called Just Whitney as a response to everything. But unfortunately, the album flopped, and she wasn't able to make that objective to clear the air. So she then went to rehab many times but never got clean. In the documentary, they talked about how there wasn't that much of a drive and a motivation to. So here I'm gonna restate the content warning. I will be talking about essay and about being R-worded. I will put the timestamp if it's too triggering, and you can jump to there. So this was when it was revealed that Gary and Whitney were both essayed and as children. This happens when Sissy was away and they had to go to different families. And the person who did it was her cousin, Dee Dee Warwick. She blamed herself and she was ashamed. She felt like it was partly her fault. Which, if any of you have been through that, you understand that feeling. However, I urge you to remember that the responsibility is on them. They're the predator. You're the victim. You can't make anyone do anything. It's not your fault, and you didn't deserve that. She didn't deserve that. These predators deserve to be punished. It is a crime. It's a huge crime, and it is something that does stick with the victim and can ruin their lives. If this has happened to you, I urge you to seek therapy, to seek help. I urge you to speak up about it. And, we live in a day and age where there are more and more survivors speaking up about their experiences and speaking out against their abusers. Please believe these women. Please support these women. Don't blame them. Don't defend their abusers. No matter who they are, even if it hurts, please believe the women and please support them. It is very, very difficult to overcome that kind of trauma. So please be understanding. So back to Whitney. She never told her mother because she was afraid of what Sissy would do. And this trauma also made her question her sexuality. And it was partly the reason why she married a man and started a family. I guess she was thinking in a way that it could erase this. And it also contributed to the pressure to do what she was supposed to do. But the trauma was haunting her, and it was heavily implied in the documentary that this was a big reason why she abused drugs so much. This trauma made her a huge advocate for protecting children from abuse. And when I was watching this part, it made sense to me why Chrissy came with her whenever she had to be away. I think that she was afraid that if she left her daughter, that the same thing would happen to her, which I understand, but also, this was not a good environment for Chrissy. So, the problem with Whitney was she wasn't able to truly know herself, so she couldn't save herself, and she became a shell. There was a part, a video, where she was, I guess, talking as Nippy, trying to reach Whitney. And it was really haunting. She was smoking in it, and just, I could really, really feel that she was losing her identity, her sense of self. And that's a really scary thing to go through. So she needed to get away from everything and everyone, so she moved to Georgia and did not come back to New Jersey. It was very dark in her home. Bobby was always horrible to her. Chrissy was kept away and went through so much because they didn't take care of her. And this took a toll on Bobby Christina. She eventually became an addict too, and she, content warning, ended up in the hospital for harming herself. And then this was the era when reality TV was really taking off. In 2004, there was a series called Being Bobby Brown. This exposed more of the drugs, bad behavior, and gave Whitney a worse reputation. Which is why was it her reputation that was getting tarnished so much, and then Bobby just kind of got away with it? It doesn't make sense to me. So she tried to fix the marriage, and she tried to quit drugs. She kept relapsing. So Sissy finally came with the police and an injunction for her to go on TV and to retire. So Whitney took a break. In 2006, she finally left Bobby, and in 2007, the divorce was finalized. She felt like a failure, and Chrissy had to be there to support her and comfort her. And the good news, though, was that she won sole custody of Bobby Christina. So she decided to get it together for the sake of her daughter. She went to rehab and was sticking with it. However, she went broke and had to leave early. Management pushed her to tour because otherwise she'd be homeless. But no one on her team wanted her to go. But she went anyway. Unfortunately, the years of heavy drug abuse really showed in her voice. People were walking out of her shows because she really sounded really bad. I guess it's just heavy use like that is really going to destroy your voice. It was so sad. I Look to You came out in 2009, which did very well. Alicia Keys wrote the song $1 Million Bill, and R. Kelly wrote the title track. and she was doing much better. Then she was in a remake of her favorite movie called Sparkle, starring alongside Jordan Sparks. The movie was released after her death. She needed the money since her music career was over, so she cleaned herself up and agreed to take a drug test every week. So since she finally had a purpose, she was happy again and socializing. She was really there. It was cute. She was taking her castmates to baseball games, I believe, and like going out to eat. She was really living. And when filming wrapped, she was avoiding going back. She was delaying her flights. She definitely knew that she was going back to a really bad place. On February 11th, 2012, she was staying in the Beverly Hills Hotel before Clive Davis's pre-Grammy party. She was found dead in her tub because of accidental drowning, heart disease, and cocaine was in her system. 3 years later, Bobby Christina was also found in a tub and was in a coma for 6 months before she passed. She had a voice that moves people, gets you to feel things on a very deep level. She truly sang with her heart, mind, and guts in a way that no one else could replicate. You could have all the, like I said, you could have all the talent in the world, but she just knew how to make chills run down your spine and get goosebumps, cry, because you could really feel it. And you can't do that if you don't have a deep soul and a big heart. So, if you want to learn anything about her, listen to her music and you feel it. You will feel her spirit. More than that, she was a warm and fun person that people felt good around. However, she was in deep pain. For all her life, she had to hide who she was and try to be perfect for her family and for the world. She had to hide her sexual trauma instead of getting help for it. She had to hide her sexuality because her family, career, and it was the 80s and very taboo. She was bullied growing up and was a child of divorce. Her family was on the payroll and her father was stealing from her. Bobby did everything he could to hurt her. Then there were the tabloids, the interviews, not being good enough for her community. She was shamed as a woman for staying with Bobby for as long as she did. She had it on all sides. So I'm going to repeat some of the same things I said during my Amy Winehouse video. There is a lot we can learn from this to be better. If you know a loved one who's gone through similar things, I encourage you to encourage them to get help. Be there for them, to support them. They need you. And if you are one that's struggling, I encourage you to get help. You deserve it. You deserve to be healthy. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to heal. We also need to learn to not expect perfection from anyone, including celebrities. Cancel culture can be a good thing for when people need to take accountability for crimes. However, it is not good to cancel celebrities or anyone for that matter over trivial mistakes, but instead be understanding. You're not perfect. Don't expect them to be. Remember that they are still people and have real feelings, and most have been through some serious traumas that we cannot begin to understand. Just because they're rich and famous doesn't mean that they are immune from really bad shit happening to them, because bad shit can happen to anyone. Also, in this social media era, rumors, paparazzi, clickbait videos, and tabloids are more widespread than ever. There's also AI, which is already posing a serious danger for invasion of privacy. Don't give these your attention. If you see content that is defamatory and invasive, block and report. Yes, we can't stop shitty people from invading people's privacy to get clout, but we can make it less profitable for them. Think critically. Ask questions. Don't believe everything you hear. Above all, everyone has a right to privacy. Being in the public eye doesn't mean that they are asking for that to be invaded. Whitney's privacy being invaded over her drug abuse made things much worse and was not the way to get her to get help. Let's learn from this. And for fuck's sake, don't be homophobic. Don't expect people to fit these traditional boxes that don't make them happy. Now that I know that Whitney was a closeted bi woman, it makes me wonder how different things would have been if she had lived a day where it was more open and accepted to be who she was. I wish it was this way in the 80s. However, people are still homophobic now. We still have a long way to go, so we need to do better. I hope that the world remembers Whitney for her beautiful soul and her voice that moves souls instead of just her vices. I encourage you all to listen to her music. Please let me know in the comments if you have a favorite song from her. I do love Greatest Love of All, and I want to dance with somebody. But there are a lot of other songs from her that I do really like. Also, if I got any information wrong, please let me know in the comments. I wanted to do her justice, and I'm human too, so if I made mistakes, I really want to know about them so I can correct them. And yeah, I hope I was able to do her justice, because incredible woman, incredible talent, and it's too much to cover thoroughly in one video, so please let me know. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, subscribe, as I will be putting out more videos like this in the future. I also do album reviews sometimes, music covers, and I sometimes put out original songs as well, so please look forward to that. And I will keep trying to improve. And with that, I will see you next time. Bye.